The biggest week in the history of Xbox might be next week. Happy Friday, friends. It is Friday. We're technically in the back half of October. Hopefully you had a wonderful week. There is a lot to talk about on the ARM Windows side. Xbox has potentially, and I mean this pretty seriously, potentially one of the most it's like an event horizon style week next week. And so there is a lot to talk about. We don't want to waste any time. So we are in the middle of October. And let's kick it off here with the tech news. So the first, and this one's a little bit baffling, Qualcomm has canceled its Snapdragon dev kits and will be refunding all pre-orders. Now, what's hilarious about this is people actually started getting the dev kits that they ordered. So Michael Niehaus on Twitter posted, he's like, hey, I got my dev kit today. And then also Qualcomm started sending out emails saying, hey, we're canceling all pre-orders. And so they actually seeded it out some YouTubers as well. And so this is really weird. They announced this at Build, and this is supposed to be a dev box. Candidly, it's supposed to be like targeted at somebody like me who works at a company that builds applications for Windows on ARM. But they never really, for whatever reason, they didn't explicitly say. They're just canceling it. The quote-unquote reason was like, it's not up to our standards, whatever, blah, 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 dumb jargon. I guess technically not dumb jargon, whatever, PR speak for canceling this product, but whatever. The dev kit's done, and I'm be wondering if the people who actually got them will get refunds as well. So, yeah. Anyways, that's an oddity that I did not see coming. Anyways, there you go. I got asked a bunch of times, like, when is there going to be a Surface event in the fall? And so I kept saying, I didn't really hear there was going to be one. And so now there's more evidence that there's probably not going to be one. Because this Lunar Lake based Surface laptop, which looks exactly like a Surface Laptop 7, I'm not expecting, at least as of right now, a major redesign at this point, was posted for sale, hilariously, on a Chinese reseller website. And yeah, and actually at one point, I think it even says like prototype, not for resale. But you know what? Whatever. They clearly stole one off the assembly line or something. I don't really know. I guess I shouldn't assume that they stole it, but whatever. There is a Lunar Lake Surface laptop coming. I would expect it probably next year, maybe, knowing how Microsoft and Surface have been doing things, but we will see. We will see. And so, yeah, there's that. Also, Mica, the design language, is finally coming to Firefox and Windows 11, which the timing is probably pretty darn good, because if you've been paying attention, Google is now blocking uBlock Origin, and Firefox is not. And so it's really shady what Google is doing, letting this, they basically changed the rules and said, look, you're blocking our ads, and ads are how we make money, and so you're no longer allowed in our store, and they're booting it out, or already booted out, and they're also retroactively, like, clawing it away from people who had it installed. So now that Mica is supported on Firefox, maybe more people will be jumping over to that camp, and that will be a good thing for Firefox. So there's also a new Windows Store update that is, I believe, slowly rolling out, or maybe it's going to be coming soon. But anyways, I could have sworn that we had seen this previously, but anyways, it's now, I guess, it's starting to become available. More rich experience in the store. So if a developer has a trailer for their application or game, it will now autoplay at the top. It's a more rich experience. That's really kind of it. And so speaking of rich experiences, things I also did not have on my bingo card for this week, Windows 10, according to Phantom of the Earth, who found this image or pulled this image out of the most recent build, Windows 10 About page is getting more detailed information, as you can see here on the screen if you're on the video side, and so it's just more bits and bobs about what's going on your device when you search for the About. I'm not quite sure why now and why they're doing this, but maybe it has something to do with trying to get more information about making it more explicitly clear about why they may not be able to go to Windows 11. I'm not quite sure, but they're doing it, and they are rolling it out. Other things happening, Microsoft VP of Generative AI Research is going over to Team OpenAI and has left Microsoft. So I am surprised we're not hearing more about this. Not this particular thing, but like people moving around, right? Generative AI is the big new hotness. And so maybe I shouldn't even say that, because a lot of people have left OpenAI over the recent months, right? And that's not all that unusual when you're the hottest startup and hottest company in a specific segment. Like, people come and grab you and steal you and things. It's like a SpaceX employee going over to another rocket company. That's just how the market works. And so, yeah, so Microsoft lost a pretty large role in their generative AI stuff. So, yes. All right. The bigger news of the week, at least on everything else. So Xbox, there's a lot of gaming news going on this week because I think next week, which we'll get to here in a second, is the biggest week in Xbox history, at least in recent memory. So anyways, so today, or I should say this week, technically recording this at late on a Thursday night, so technically it was today. Whatever, you guys don't care. Anyways, there was the Xbox Preview Partner Program or showcase today. It was about 26-ish minutes of just games and just games that are coming to Xbox and their partner games, and they're coming to Xbox. And as you would expect, some of these games are, in fact, coming to Game Pass. And so some of these look pretty interesting. You know, I'm much more likely to try things out. Like Subnautica 2 is obviously, I think, something most people will try out at the end of the day. Go watch it. There was an interesting title that was announced called Blind Fire. And so this is it's an FPS. I don't want to say typical FPS because it actually, when I first saw the box art of it, it looked like Cyberpunk. But anyways, it's like, it's an FPS in the dark and you use like echolocation and other things. And so it's got a unique twist rather than just being another sort of Call of Duty, not Call of Duty game, if that makes sense. So anyways, that stuff is going on. Other things happening. Rare's Craig Duncan has become the new Xbox head of game studio as Alan Hartman retires. So that's a little bit shuffling of the deck chairs. It wouldn't surprise me if we see some more shuffling of the deck chairs inside the world of Xbox. While someone might say, Brad, this is just one person changing. But you know what? People are loyal to people who are loyal to them. And it would not surprise me to see Craig potentially put some of his trusted leadership into trusted roles now that he has moved up the org chart. And so do not be surprised if you see more shuffles within the Xbox org here in the near future. Microsoft has also, this shouldn't shock anybody either, they have removed their $1 Game Pass trial offer leading up to Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which is next week. Now the reason for that is pretty obvious because they don't want their most popular and anticipated title coming to Game Pass in the history of Game Pass to be accessible for $1 where people could pay $1 and play the entire campaign more than likely with that single dollar. So that's gone. You got to sign up for the full kit and caboodle if you want to be playing this, which leads into my point that I believe next week is going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest game releases in Xbox history. There's a lot of reasons for this. First of all, Microsoft now owns Activision. So we've got that, right? The Activision, this is typically $1 billion weekend or sort of deal at the end of the day. They will certainly make a lot of money on PlayStation. They'll certainly make a lot of money on the PC as well and on Xbox. Not everybody's signing up for Game Pass, but for literal years at this point, Xbox, Phil Spencer, Amy Hood, the whole Microsoft company has said, look, judge us not by our hardware sales, judge us by our Game Pass growth, our subscription revenue growth. By Microsoft putting this title into Game Pass on day one, they are expecting, dare I say, explosive growth. Now, by now, they should already know whether or not this is actually happening. They should be well aware that they're seeing a trend in sign up in Xbox Game Pass. Now, I will fully get on board and say, like, look, if you're going to play more than 2 games that's in Game Pass, it is worth signing up. Call of Duty is one of the biggest titles on planet Earth. There is no way. You can't really argue with that. Yes, it may not be the number one at all times, but it is a top 10 title on an annual basis every single year. And Microsoft is betting a lot of money that this is going to drive Game Pass growth. They need to see these big numbers. And we'll know this when they go and report earnings for the quarter. If Microsoft does not talk about Game Pass subscriber numbers after this quarter, it didn't go well. That would be my expectation at this point. And I think that's fair assessment. And I think they should be required to say how much they get because, again, they spent $69 billion to be able to do this. And if they're not seeing growth, then something in the model is not working as expected. So tensions, I would say, are high. Expectations are even higher. And someone will say, but Brad, the launching of the Xbox Series X was more important than this. I don't know if it honestly is. To the longevity of the brand of Xbox, to the longevity of Game Pass, Call of Duty is just about as big of a title as it gets that Microsoft/Xbox could put into the service to drive growth. If they do this and they can't drive growth, then that is a very, very serious warning sign for the longevity of Game Pass itself, because Microsoft has played the best cards and that they could get their hands on, and it happens next week. It starts on October 25th. there should be a peak, right? There should be a sign up peak. And then the other question becomes is like, how long are people going to stay subscribed? Because the goal isn't just subscribers, it's to reduce churn. So if people sign up and only play for a month, that is very, very bad, because then Microsoft, instead of making $70 for the sale of the game, they only made, at minimum, I guess they're roughly making $20. We'll just say $20. And I know there's caveats, and please don't, whatever, but you guys understand the severity and the very harsh reality that is coming to this moment. Now, hopefully it's a huge success, right? I'm not trying to be a doomer or gloomer or anything else. I hope that this is a monumental success and Microsoft reaps the benefit of the risk that they have taken. But the reality is that they have taken such a huge risk that anything other than excellent is going to be a disappointment at this point for their financial investments to get to this point. Now, Call of Duty, I will be playing this game via Game Pass, but I've already been playing Game Pass, so technically I don't count, right? I'm not churning, which is a good thing for Microsoft, but I'm not a net new sign-up. Me playing this game, I as an end user, I'm saving money at the end of the day, because I play more than 2 games that are in Game Pass on a fairly frequent basis. So they didn't get that money from me, and I'm one of those people, I don't really buy microtransactions. I'm just whatever. That's me. And so I played Starfield, I played this, I've played other titles. And so I wish Xbox well. They are doing all the typical marketing things that are leading up to a release of this caliber. And I think expectations are high. Will they be met? We shall see. And I mean, they're doing everything they can. Like, they're releasing new controllers at the end of the day. Like, this is all of the traditional Call of Duty hype cycle stuff is in full swing. And I expect next week it'll probably be like a day drop every single day. There'll be some sort of new bit of information that hits the wire and is really trying to get people into this, because again, this is the moment that Xbox has been pushing towards pretty much ever since they announced the acquisition. Yeah, you could say there's other titles in there, but and maybe it's just because I play Call of Duty, but the Call of Duty community is massive. And so Microsoft has big expectations, and you can pick up yourself some new controllers, like the new Call of Duty Black Ops. There's an elite version and a non-elite version, and whatever, one of those wrapper things. So there you go. It's going to be the problem. One of the challenges will be is that as an outsider, we can't see how many people are signing up. We can maybe judge it based on how many people are playing. You could look at Steam numbers. You can get some vague ideas, but Steam numbers don't help understanding that thing that I find so important, because Microsoft says judge us on this number, which are the Game Pass numbers at the end of the day. So there you go. Big week, huge week. Can't underestimate that from a business perspective. So here we go. Bunch of questions into the hopper this week. Always my favorite part, my friends. Let's dive in. Matt O'Bear kicking it off. He says, yo, Brad, with the ability... Oh, I even left this out. I was so hyped about this Call of Duty stuff, whatever else. With the ability to play Xbox games we own via cloud coming soon, how will Xbox communicate to people outside the hardcore audience that they can buy a digital game and stream it? So here's the rough idea. Until Microsoft fully announces this, we don't have all the details yet, but the concept is if you own a game, you'll be able to stream it over xCloud. This has been one of the pillars, if you will, that's supposed to make xCloud a success, right? You can stream the games that are already there and then stream the games that you own as well. And so with all of this coming, how is Microsoft going to communicate it? The pessimist of me says poorly, because that is how Microsoft typically does things. However, they could get creative and come up with some sort of catchy slogans, right? It's just going to be another bullet point on the xCloud stuff, which, by the way, you'll be able to play xCloud Black Ops over it right away. Microsoft is making a notable push, if you will, with xCloud, at least this time around. They've been really quiet on it. And so maybe with the streaming stuff here and Call of Duty coming to xCloud, that, hey, this will be the time that we'll see some more reinvigoration, if you will, into this model that they've let stagnate here for just a little bit. So Matt Thine says, do you still golf? You have not mentioned playing recently. I wish I played more. I've played a couple times, but not as much as I would like to. At my peak golf time, I was golfing like every Tuesday morning, like especially during the summertime. I could get there. It was when my daughter was in daycare. She was right next to a golf course. Brilliant planning on all parts by everybody, because I could drop my daughter off at 7:30 and be teeing off at like 7:45. And I play 9 holes, typically by myself, and I would be done in 90 minutes, which if you're a golfer, you know that's pretty quick. But when it's like a Tuesday morning, which is when I like to go, That is, yeah. So that is when I would like to play. I can't. My kid's older, different job, different responsibilities. And right now it's getting cold and dark and there's no time to play. I mean, like sun is setting at a depressing like 6:15 p.m. and it's not rising up until later in the day. So yeah. Marvin says, will there be a throttled by Thurrott apron on the Thurrott store? And how do I ship one to you? When are we grilling? So I do not know. I do not know. That is, see, I'd be more of like a Thurrott branded like burger smasher. That would be the thing. We've got Christian asking, he says, Brad, will you be playing Call of Duty Black Ops 6 next Friday? I hope to be playing. My concern now is going to be like, anybody who's been through a Call of Duty launch will be questioning, will the server survive, right? That has always been a thing that, like, you can't get into a game, things are slow, whatever, the servers go down, they crash, it happens. These things do happen. And so I hope to be playing next Friday. I think the question maybe is, am I going to play the campaign? I don't know. I don't know yet. I don't know. I like the multiplayer. I really like Warzone. And so we will see. Mr. PKI with a double dose of typical questions here. Let's drop into them. He says, here's a fun one this week. As a frequent YouTuber, when you take a break for a session recording due to work or vacation, do you materially feel the financial impact of reduced followers and minutes viewed dropping that week? Because, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends what's material. So the qualifier here is I do YouTube and I do this stuff you are literally listening to because I enjoy it. It's fun. It is not my job. How YouTube does not pay my mortgage. And so, yes, there is an absolute drop because I'm typically doing at least one video a week. Typically they post up on Fridays. Sometimes midweek if there's some big Xbox news or Windows news or Surface news dropping. But yeah, like you can see the numbers drop, right? This is an ad or an impression based industry. So if I'm not shipping content, and that's the YouTube high, you can see this happen with creators a lot, right? You start a channel and you get a little bit of success, and a little bit of success meaning just a few things, a few thousand views on a video, and you start chasing that and you start chasing it. So what do you have to do? You have to start creating more content. Well, how do you create more content? It becomes very challenging and people start to force things into it. And so the goal is to find a repeatable medium and format that people like to tune into. This podcast is an interesting one because I haven't changed the format too much. I mean, the biggest change I've made to this format is really adding like all these pictures, especially on the video side. So increasing that, and that has helped. But at the end of the day, I'm not trying to chase 100,000 impressions for every video because it's like, I do this to stay connected. So to answer your question with like getting off my soapbox, the answer is yes. There's definitely, like, if I take 2 weeks off, the number of views that I see in the last 30 days, they do fall off, and YouTube will be like, you have lower views and impressions during this period. But it doesn't matter. I mean, the YouTube channel subscriber base is still there. Everybody hit subscribe. That's what people say. And so I'll do it. It is. But to answer your question, yes, you do. Because if you're not churning content, you're not getting views, which means you're not getting ad impressions, which means you're not making money. And so the money that I make from this goes into, it's like a hobby fund. It's what I use to pay for vacations every once in a while. It doesn't make that much money. This is a hobby, not a career, thankfully. Because if it becomes a career, then things start to get weird and then forced, and everybody's saying subscribe, and whatever. It's whatever. Sydney 2K says, hello, Brad. We know you like to dabble a little with Flight Simulator. I do. I really, so specifically in the Flight Simulator, there's landing challenges. Like, for whatever reason, those are my favorite things. I know some people love to go whole hog and like to take off and landing and do the whole thing. I totally get it. But mine are like the landing challenges. I just think they're fun. And so they're also usually like 5 minutes a pop. And so you can pull up Flight Sim, play, do a bunch of landing challenges, and you've only spent an hour and you've gotten to do a bunch of stuff. It says, how excited about the 2024 iteration of Microsoft Flight Simulator? So the full transparency would be, I'm excited about it, the new content. I'm not as excited as the initial release, because the initial release was like a huge monumental gain of content, experiences, and everything else. But 2024 is more iterative, if that makes more sense. So hyped, yes. Will I play it? Yes. As long as that's part of Game Pass, I will continue to play it. That's a perfect example of, yeah, I pay for Game Pass because I'll play Call of Duty a lot. I'll play Flight Sim on occasion. Hopefully there'll be a couple titles like Vampire Survivors or something like that pops in and out throughout the year. Really liked Vampire Survivors, Age of Empires 2. And like my base is already covered in a monetary value for the service. So yeah, I'll definitely play it. And then whatever pops in and out, I usually try to Try to play a new game every once in a while. So there you go. I think that wraps it up, friends. That is this week. I am super interested to see what happens next week with Call of Duty. I'll be watching the tea leaves to see if we get any numbers. I don't think Microsoft will say anything, but we might, if we're lucky, we'll hear things like it was the biggest Call of Duty weekend ever. Most monthly active or daily active users ever in a Call of Duty. Those are the types of things we'll have to be paying attention to, see if they arrive. We'll see what happens. So as always, my friends, make sure to keep it subscribed here because then the BS on this podcast is me.